Hello, I'm Kendra Kunov, and I wasn't gonna do a Facebook Live today because I was feeling kind of like mwah, and I think I'm probably a little bit premenstrual, and my energy was going in, and I've had this piece that I've actually wanted to speak and share about for a little while. But I saw something today that just sparked it again for me and made it very alive. And it's really around I don't want to say like, you know, I don't want to tell you how to choose a teacher. It sort of seems like a lot of hubris on my part to say that, but it sparked this piece that I've really wanted to share about at least my perspective on choosing a teacher or teachers. I think is probably more accurate, given that at least in this day and age, most of us will have many, and if we're lucky, many teachers in our life. For the people who are on the call, maybe give me a thumbs up if my sound is good, or just like, wave. If my sound is not good, let me know. I'll try to speak up. So, on choosing a teacher, the first thing is, do they have what you want in the area that you're teaching? So I would say this is true about anything, is that when you are looking, or sometimes not even looking, but then people come into your sphere and you think like, oh, wow, they have something. But sometimes it just means that people are really good at either putting themselves out there or making a splash or having an impact, and they may or may not be the teacher for you or a teacher for you. And it's useful to have a little bit of a way to look at this and go like, okay, if this person is teaching in the area of financial success, do they have they actually had the kind of financial success that I want in kind of the way I want it? Like, now, of course, does their life have to look just like your life? Absolutely not. But do they look like they're kind of work nonstop and their work is their life? And hi, Morag, thanks. And really, that's not the kind of life you want. So maybe they've made just like a shit ton of money and you'd also like to make a shit ton of money. But if you look at their life, you think, wait, I don't want to live that way. Or if you're, come across teachers in the realm of relating or relationship, is looking, and it's not even a judgment about whether somebody has a good relationship or not, but do they actually have the kind of either romantic relationship or just relationships in their life that you want? And they might have all kinds of relationships, or they might be in an intimate relationship and they might be quite happy, and it might look quite different than what you want. So again, it's not so much that they have to have exactly the life you want, exactly the partner you want, exactly the house or live in the place. It's not so much that it has to be like that, but is to genuinely ask yourself the question, does this person have what I want in the area that they're teaching? And be able to separate out a little bit just the excitement of, like, Facebook is kind of like this, right? Like, you can see people's fabulous pictures and you can think like, oh, well, that looks good. And then I had this actually for a while. It was in a particular thing, but it was like for a while it really seemed like the end all be all for entrepreneurs was like to work on a beach and to travel all the time. Like I should just travel all the time, and every time I post I'm in a different country, and it looks super exciting. It's kind of like, wow, well that must really be the life. And I remember this moment when I paused and I realized, like, oh, that actually sounds like, when I think about that for myself, I feel super anxious. Sounds really tiring to me. Like, I love my home. I love one place. I love actually the place I live. I didn't want that life, but it looked so good out there that I could feel there was like that pull. Oh, they have that life. Maybe I should learn from them. So again, coming back to this question, does this person actually have something like what I want in the area that they're teaching, or that I'm looking to them as a potential teacher? And so, a little side note, I touched on this, but is you have to, it's not that you have to know exactly what you want, but you do have to be willing to get honest with yourself about what you want. Do you want to travel all the time? Do you really want to make that much money, or do you really want simplicity? What kind of a career do you really want? Do you want a monogamous relationship? Do you want a polyamorous relationship? Do you like, oh wait, this is what I want. So maybe this is an amazing teacher in some area, but it's not really aligned with what I want to create in my life. The other I would say is, and this is so personal, so I want to make it really clear that none of this is about judging people as good teachers or not. It's truly about the right fit for you. And it goes both ways, but I'm talking to you. So we'll talk about the right fit for you, which is, can you feel them? And can you feel their impact? And that is so personal. So if you can't feel them, that's not an indictment of them as a teacher. It just might be like, wow, maybe that's not the teacher for me, even though they were a teacher for my best friend, even though they're the most renowned in the world at X, Y, and Z, they might not be the teacher for you. And then the corollary to that is, how do you feel around them? Now, my personal perspective is that a good teacher is not meant to make you feel good all the time, right? Like, my best teachers have pushed me so hard. Like, I've been not only, physically and emotionally, and I've been up against my edges, and I've, generally hated them at some point. Or been, broken down. So it's not like, how do I feel around them? Do they make me feel good all the time? But do I feel like more, of what I want? So to link this back to the one before, I used to study with basically the foremost Iyengar yoga teacher in the United States, who was BKS Iyengar's right-hand man for, 20 or 30 years. Just extraordinary, extraordinary teacher. And I was never trained as an Iyengar teacher. I found that this was my teacher. But I had a friend who had been trained. She was a yoga teacher. This is what she did with her life. She was trained in the Iyengar tradition. And she kept trying to make this man her teacher because she thought she should, because he was the best of the best, because he was who all the Iyengar teachers went to. And I remember saying to her, if she would go to his classes and she would just feel anxious because he's kind of a yeller. Like, he's a yeller. He used to come and he would smack me on the back, and he would say like, you know, do it better, or you could da da da. He was very gruff, and to me, I don't know what this says about me, but that would happen, and I would think like, he loves me. Like, I felt very loved by him. I felt opened. I would go, and as hard as it was and as pushed as I was, I felt opened by that. She would go, and she just felt anxious the whole time. And I was like, girl, you don't have to go to these classes. This is not just because he's the best. If you're going to go and then be in this contracted and anxious state, I don't think this is actually serving you. So the question is they kind of go together, which is, can you feel them? Like, do they impact you in a visceral or emotional or energetic way? And then how do you feel around them? And again, these are really important places to be honest. They're not places to either judge yourself or judge the teacher, but to be honest about whether there's a match. And often for me, those have happened at this very visceral level. I remember the first time I ever saw a Kundalini yoga teacher that I studied with, and her name was Gurmukh. And I went because a friend recommended I go. And I walked into the room. I looked to the front of the room, and I saw her, and I had not heard her speak. We had not done any yoga. I had no idea who this woman was. And there was just this wave that came over me, and it was clear as day. These words went through my mind: I will do whatever that woman tells me to do. And so I trust that. I trust that visceral response. And I have been around enough teachers, and again, like, you could judge teachers based on this. I'll just call it personal, because I don't know what other people are feeling. But I've been around other teachers who are very good teachers, but I notice that I leave feeling not good about myself. Like, there's some way that I get into a craving space, or a like, oh God, I guess I need to do something, or like I'm not there space. And for me, that's not a good teacher for me. I go to teachers where I know I have something to learn, but it's not about that I'm not good enough, or that I need to feel like I'm less than in their space. I'm like, oh, you clearly have something. You're either more open than I am. You've learned way more in this area. There's something that I can learn from you. But when I'm around the teachers that I want to study with, even though I am aware of how much I can learn from them, I actually feel more whole in their presence. I feel more like, oh, I'm whole, and I can learn more, and this is a lifelong and never-ending journey. So, do they have what you want in the area that they're teaching, or in the area that you're going to them? Like, really, is it really what it is that you want? Can you feel them? How do you feel around them? And with this, these questions, of course, is that, of course, teachers don't have to have it all, right? If you're going, I mean, this has been my experience anyway. That same yoga teacher, the Iyengar yoga master, I remember being in the dressing room getting ready for class one day, and another woman was saying something about, she said, oh my God, like, wouldn't it be amazing to have had him as a dad? And I remember thinking, like, are you fucking kidding me? That sounds like a nightmare. Like, I can't imagine being married to that man, or having him as a father just sounded like awful. But as this particular teacher in my life, it was amazing. And so for me, and I really do kind of believe in this day and age, this becomes more and more important, which is our capacity to see the humanness of our teachers, and neither skip over their humanness and try to pretend that they're just like everything in all ways and can do no wrong, but neither letting their humanness, like the seeing of that, letting it, like having us just throw them under the bus because they did something stupid, or we wouldn't want to learn from them in another way. I had another incredible teacher in my life, a woman who similarly had a lot of fire and really like held these very strong, very, very just fierce. She was fierce teacher. And, she would also had some problems with alcoholism. And for me, it was like, can I love her for all of it? Can I not excuse or say like, oh, well, that's just part of the wisdom, because I don't believe that. But I did not have to throw her teaching under the bus when I saw that in her. I could still actually learn from her. And so yeah, these questions, do our teachers, do they live what they teach, but can we also let them be human? Of course, this all applies to me too. If you look at me as a teacher in any way, I would always want you to be asking the question, does Kendra actually have what I want in the area that she's teaching or speaking? And I would want you to be checking, can you feel me? And how do you feel when you're in my sphere, which includes these Facebook Lives? It would never be my intention. I would never want someone to continue to come and learn from me if you actually felt somehow lacking in my space. I would hope that you would gravitate towards a teacher who you felt kind of lifted, more whole and lifted up by. That's always my intention. But if that actually isn't the dynamic between us, then, it's not. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. And then the allowance to both look like, okay, do you really walk your talk? But I hope you can allow me to be human. So what would I say I don't know if I have a way to wrap this up, except that I believe that teachers are here to take us farther than we could go on our own. But ultimately, they're here to give us permission to be more of who we truly are. Not to be more of them or more of who we're supposed to be, but to take us farther than we could go on our own, on the path of being more and more fully ourselves and who it is that we both truly are and are truly meant to be in this life. I hope that supports you in some way on your path of finding mentors, finding teachers. And as always, feel free to ask me questions in the comments, send me a private message. You can always find more of me online at kendrakunov.com. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Ciao.